Okay. Thank you, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. And I've been hearing about this group. It's something that's even known in Yesharim, where I live. And everybody talks about the Amen Group and what the Amen Group has done for this community. So I feel like it's a very special privilege to be here today and to be able to address you. Okay, our topic actually worked out very beautifully because when Robertson Fuchs said to me, can you do Mesillas, Yesharim, Parak, and Test? I said, I'll open it up and I'll see what it is. And I opened it up, and the topic that you're in the middle of right now is the topic of zrizus, which happens to be the topic that I'm doing now with my teleconferencing VAD. So I feel like we're all in it together. Okay, so when we talk about zrizus, and if any of you have the text in front of you, Parak in Mesillas Yesharim. So the Mesillas Yesharim starts off by saying that zrizus is very similar to zahirus. I am imagining the group has done zahirus up till now already. The main distinction between zrizus and zahirus, thank you, is that, I'll turn it on? It's on already. Okay, the main distinction is that zahirus is about avoiding mistakes, avoiding averos, and good planning in avoiding averos. And zrizus is the same kind of vigilance, but it's focused on the positive, focused on doing a mitzvah properly, and being able to be very energized and to be aware. But many of the same principles apply, and I'd like to talk about that a little bit today. We'll go back to the text. I'll kind of refer back to the text as I go along, but I'd like to just give a little bit of a definition of zrizus according to the Sifsei Chaim. Rav Chaim Friedlander was a famous mashgiach in Panovich. So the way he defines, and I'm not sure here how much you already know about zrizus. How long have you been working on zrizus as a midah? Has it last week was what? Okay, good. So you have a little bit of an introduction already. The Sifsei Chaim makes a very, very important distinction in midos. There's something called chomer in midos, and there's something called surah. Chomer is the God-given gift that we have in any midah. And here we have the haves and the have-nots. And in zrizus, you kind of like, you might have a neighbor who zips through the supermarket and is finished with all of her shopping and you still haven't finished the first aisle. That's somebody whose chomer in zrizus is very good. Meaning it's a God-given gift that certain people are efficient and quick and get things done quickly. But for every midah, we have chomer, which is the God-given gift, and we have surah. And surah is the sophisticated form of the way a midah looks when I work on it. The good news about the concept of chomer and surah is that people who don't have good chomer in a certain area, they're not naturally talented with this midah of being efficient, can work on it through surah. Meaning, it could be that I'm naturally not a certain way, but I'd like to be that way, and here I apply myself and I develop myself. There's another distinction between chomer and surah, which is that chomer and surah often look a little bit different. Sometimes they have a certain overlap, but they look different. And let's explain it vis-a-vis this midah. The zrizus, the chomer of zrizus is being quick and efficient. That's what it is. The surah of zrizus is being focused on what I'm doing and putting my kochos into doing it properly, with an awareness of the obstacles, both physical and spiritual, that might come my way. Zrizus in surah is not just about being fast. It's about being dedicated to something, being devoted to the thing that I want to do. The Sifsei Chaim says that one of the byproducts of working on it is that you might become quicker. But being quick is only one aspect, and often it's not even the main aspect of what it means to be zariz. Let me demonstrate this for you a little bit. The Bnei Yisrael built the Mishkan in a very short amount of time, from right after Yom Kippur until Kafei Kislev Chanukah, which is coming up. That was the period of time that it took to build the Mishkan. And the Medrash asked the question, these people were slaves. They had no artistic development. They were not trained in any of the work they had to do. And even those who might have been naturally artistic, their hands were already coarse from the heavy brickwork of Mitzrayim. And yet we know, when we look at the chalakim of the Mishkan, beautiful tapestry, beautiful weaving, they were capable of doing this and doing it in a short time. How? And Sifsei Chaim says so beautifully, Nasa'am libam b'zrizut halev v'zrizut hayadayim. That they were inspired by zrizut of the heart and zrizut of the hands. And here we're getting already into the surah of zrizut. Zrizut means that I'm inspired by something. You know, I know myself, I'm not very good in the kitchen. But if I'm making a cake for a child's birthday and I really want it to come out good, I'm almost sometimes surprised. It's still not perfect. You wouldn't want to order one for me, put it that way. But it looks better than I would do it if I was just putting something together. Because if your heart is in it, then even your hands can become more efficient. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about zrizut, hayadayim, v'zrizut halev. But there's another factor involved in zrizut, which is zrizut hasechel. That's cognitive zrizut. What does that mean? If we get back to what I was saying before, if I am very dedicated to making that cake and making it well for that child's birthday, I'll also plan well to get to the store before it closes. I'll have my ingredient list before. I'll know that it's not worth going to that store because there'll be long lines and I won't have time to bake. Meaning, good planning is cognitive zrizut. It's thinking about how am I going to do this efficiently and how am I going to avoid obstacles. And that's really what we're talking about. Just to, to inspire you a little bit in the midah of zrizut, the Orchos Tzadikim says that zrizut, a person who does things b'zrizut, it's a clear sign that he loves Hashem. Why? If you're doing a mitzvah and you do it b'zrizut efficiently, it's a sign that you love Hashem because I'm excited to do His mitzvah and therefore I'm doing it well. But you know what? Even when we do regular activities, when we do it efficiently, it's also a sign that we love Hashem, even if it's not a spiritual activity. And here I'll explain to you a little bit more and then we'll get back to the text. Rav Hutner in Pachad Yitzchak talks about why is speed a value? You know, if you're going to help somebody or have a conversation with somebody, you're not going to want to zip through the conversation quickly. That's not a sign of doing well, which is, by the way, why speed is only one element of zrizut. Sometimes zrizut is dafka not going fast because I want to do this well and I want to do this thoroughly. But the Pachad Yitzchak says, why is speed a factor b'chlal? And look at matzah and chametz. 18 minutes and 18 minutes plus is the difference between something that is a mitzvah daraisa to have or something that you're chayav mitzvah if you eat it. And it's all about time. We might think that, maybe the idea would be the person baking the matzah should bake it with love and with kavana, and it should take a few hours. No, minutes, speed. And what is speed? Where's the spiritual value of speed? So here I'd like to explain to you a very beautiful idea. Rav Hutner says that a person wants to get close to Hashem. Hashem is metaphysical. He's above physicality. Time is a physical concept. In this world, we're limited by time. Hashem is haya hove v'yeh. He's above time. And me, in the physical world, I want to get close to Hashem, who's in the metaphysical world. He's above time, and I'm bound by time. How do I get close? What's the resolution? To fight against time. When I do things quickly and efficiently, it's a sign that I love Hashem because He's totally not bound by time. And I'm trying to not let time take over me. I'm trying to have some kind of control over it. And that is the spiritual value of doing things efficiently, even when they're not spiritual things specifically. But we'll go a little bit further. Okay. Mesillas Yesharim goes on to say that a person has to use many different tools. By the way, Rebbe Fuchs, would you like me to read from within the text, read and translate? Yes? That's what you like? Okay, good. Okay. כאשר יתאמת אצל האדם גודל ערך המצוות ורוב חובתו בהם, ודאי שיתעורר ליבו אל העבודה ולא יתרפא ממנו. When a person understands the value of the things that he's doing and how important they are, he surely will want to do them efficiently. Okay, but what's the problem? The problem is that there are many obstacles. And here I'd like to share with you an idea that I think stems out of the Mesillas Yesharim. And this is an idea that I personally carry with me a lot. The Mishnah in Pirkei Avos talks about 4 different stages in an activity that you want to do, a project that you want to do, and where you have to be zrizus in those things. So let's listen to the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Havei az kanamer, be brazen like a tiger, kal kanesher, be light like an eagle, ratz katzvi, run like a deer, v'gibor ka'ari, and have courage like a lion. This is really what the Mesillas Hashem is trying to tell us. He's saying, you know that what you want to do is important, because the Mesillas Hashem just said that as soon as you know it's important, you're going to want to do it well. So why is it there are many important things in life that we want to do, but we don't really get around to them? Why not? Here, the Mishnah, Rav Wolbe gives this explanation of the Mishnah so beautifully. He says, in every project that you want to do, there's 4 stages. And by the way, when I'm talking about a project, a mission, a mitzvah, it's anything from doing a mitzvah properly, like davening, or doing a chesed that you want to do, or it could be starting some kind of project in your neighborhood, something like this. It's such a beautiful project. It could be fixing up a relationship, which needs to be healed. It could be anything that is something that I know is important. So what are the 4 stages? Stage number 1. Az kanamer, be brazen like a tiger. Brazen means like chutzpah. Azus, a little bit of, guts, if you would call it that. Why do you need this? This is the stage of initiation. To initiate an idea, to come up with an idea, to say, I want to change something, takes a little azus. This thing never existed before, but I want to start something new. Or this relationship is not doing well, I want to fix it. My davening is in the dumps, I want to get better. You need a little bit of chutzpah to make a change. And we know all people who've made big changes in the world or in themselves, they had to have the azus to be able to say, this is not going to be this way forever, I'm going to change something. Based on the Mesillas Yesharim, Rav Wolbe is telling us that this is where some people already run out of steam. On the initiation level, they can't think of the idea, or the second they think of it, they just push it off, oh, come on me. I'm going to do that, I'm going to fix that. And here is the first place where we need zrizus. You need zrizus to think creatively and think of a change that you want to make. It could be something with the way your Shabbos table goes, or a relationship, or anything, and to say, this could be different. It doesn't have to stay this way. And that's the first stage of zrizus, is to do that. Number 2, Hevikal kanesher, be light like an eagle. The first thing I want to say about this is that an eagle is not light. It's the heaviest of all the birds. Rav Wolbe says, based on Rav Chaim Vital, that being light like an eagle is exactly the right imagery. An eagle is heavy, but he has wings that help him get up, even though he's heavy. It's exactly the imagery that the Mishnah wants you to think about. We're heavy. It's hard for us to get moving. There's a lot going on. We're heavy sometimes emotionally, we don't have energy. And you have to take your wings and rise above your heaviness. Rav Wolbe says, based on Rav Chaim Vital, what are the wings that a person has? Simcha b'mitzvos and simcha b'chelko. The pleasure of doing a mitzvah can help you rise above the fact that it's not so easy to do. And the appreciation you have for your life and all the beauty of what is going on in your life, even though we're sometimes more aware of what's not going well than what is going well, but the appreciation of all the good things in my life is the wings that help me rise above the difficulties of what's not going well in my life. And this is why the Mishnah is telling you, have a kal kanesher. What stage is the kal kanesher? The kal kanesher is the stage I already initiated, got past that hurdle, thought of a plan, and now I'm thinking of all the details. Oh boy, this is not going to be so easy to do. The details bog me down. It sounded nice on paper, but now that I think about everything I'm going to have to do this, forget it. Many people are very idealistic. They come up with great ideas, But then when they think about what it's going to take to actually do them, that's where they run out of steam. And zrizus is also the zrizus to rise above the details. Kal kanesher. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of little stages here. It's going to be a lot of phone calls and a lot of work. But I can do it. I'm going to rise above those details, not let them get me down. That's the next stage where we need zrizus. The third stage, ratz katzvi, run like a deer. That's literally what we say in English, running with the program, running with it, meaning the actual time to do the work itself. And if we go back to the stages, some people initiate, some people don't get bogged down by the details, but the project takes a little too long till it gets done. I do a little bit, and then I close my notebook, and then I get busy with something else, and maybe in a month I'll open it again, meaning they don't run with the plan. And we're going to see here that the Mesillas Yesharim says that one of the biggest problems with zrizus is that the more time the Yitzhahara has to get in your way, the more it will. And that's why running with the plan is, in a sense, cognitive zrizus, because I know that if I don't start doing this now, it's very likely that I won't get to it. That's the third stage. Yeah, did you want to ask something?
I say like ruts is also ratzon.
Exactly.
So keep yourself invested in it.
Yes. The lightness that allows me to run has to be from the ratzon. It's very, very true. People run to what they have a ratzon for. And that's the connection. Excellent. Very true. Let's talk about the fourth stage for a second, and then we'll get back to the Mesillas Yesharim. The fourth stage, where people sometimes run out of steam, is Gibor Ka'ari, the last. Gibor Ka'ari is courage. Where do you need courage? To finish up the project. And this is a psychological phenomena of its own, that many people commit themselves to something, and they do a pretty good job in running with it, but right before the end, they run out of steam. And in the academic world, there's an expression called ABD, all but dissertation. It's people who went to school for many, many years, did a lot of work, and that very last paper that they had to hand in, they didn't hand in. And the Mishnah is teaching us this. You need to be a gibor to finish. You need the courage to finish. Now that sounds so funny, and I want to tell you what the Ramchal is going to say about this. Why does the person need courage to finish something that he wanted to do, that he did so beautifully? What's stopping him from finishing? What is that? So let's look at the Mesillas Yesharim.
Where are you in this?
In the Mesillas. Okay, so right now I'm looking. The specific thing I want to say is in Perek Tes, Od Mimafsidei Hazrizus. You see it? Hu rov hapachad v'godel hamora min hazman v'toldotav. This is a very interesting thing that the Ramchal is teaching us. The Ramchal is teaching us that zrizus, there are partnerships between midos. Every word in the Mesillas Yesharim is mechuvan. And the partnership, zrizus, is a partner with simcha. When people are happy, they're energetic, they do what they have to do. And when they accomplish, they become happier. Oh, it has more capacity than I thought. Okay. And when they're happy, then, I just lost it again. Okay. When they're happy, they do more. So there's a perpetuating cycle between happiness and zrizus. When I'm happy, I accomplish. When I accomplish, I'm happy, etc., etc. The opposite of zrizus, which is what the Mesillas Yesharim calls atzlus, and maybe we'll widen that in a few minutes. Atzlus is laziness. What's the partnership? What's the midah that's the partner of atzlus? Pachad, fear. People who are fearful don't accomplish, and people who don't accomplish become more afraid of accomplishing. And there's like a perpetuating cycle that's a negative one in these two midos. So that's what he's saying. Mimafsidei hazrizus hu rov hapachad v'godel hamora min hazman v'toldotav. The fear that we have, all kinds of fears, get in the way of our zrizus. Pam yireh me'akor me'achom. One time he's scared of the cold or the hot, meaning I have to go out in the rain to go do this project that I said I was going to do. Oh gosh, I'll just stay home. Whatever. Pam yepka'im. Sometimes he's nervous about all kinds of tragedies and things that happen. Maybe if I put myself in that situation, something bad can happen to me. It's always safer to stay home than to go do something. Sometimes you're scared of being sick. You can call hayotzeh b'zeh. Mesillas Hashem says is that a person who is looking for an excuse not to do something will have many, many reasons not to do it. And, again, because it's a cyclical kind of process, people who are very fearful also don't accomplish a lot. And that's kind of how they affect each other. But then he says something fascinating. V'hu hinyan shamar Shlomo alav hashalom. Mishlei. Amar atzel shechal baderech ari ben hachavot. It says, the pasuk says that the atzel, the lazy person, says that he doesn't want to go out because there might be a lion out on the streets. Now, I don't know if you saw this in the earlier prakim. Did you see the medrash that talks about the conversation between the atzel and Shlomo HaMelech? Was that, you haven't seen that yet. Okay. There's a medrash which is based on what the Ramchal is saying right now. And the medrash says it's a conversation between a man. Shlomo HaMelech is talking to the atzel, to the lazy man. And he's saying, Rabcha ba'ir, lech ulmod Torah mimeno. You did do that? Oh, you did it. Okay, so you saw it.
It's good.
I could do the chazar?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically it's a long medrash with a back and forth, but the person is saying, I can't go visit my Rebbe because there might be a lion in the street. And then he's afraid that there might be a lion even in the smaller aspect. And then he says, well, there is no lion, he's right here by you, maybe the door is locked. And it's like looking for excuses. And the final line in the medrash is, Mivakesh ani lishon od me'at. Meaning whether the door is open or closed, I really want to sleep. What the Ramchal says we learn from this is that fear is kind of like a smoke screen for laziness, and there's a correlation between the two of them. I would like to say that I think that nowadays, most of us are not afraid of running into a lion on the street, out on the main avenue. It's not likely. But what are our fears that affect us? And in my live Moservatim that I have in Yerushalayim, we dealt with this midah for many weeks, for 8 weeks. And we were working on the fears. What is this ABD, this all but dissertation, which manifests in many ways? It manifests in people who will invest in a relationship, but right before engagement, they can't push through. It's very hard for them. It manifests in people who start a project, but then something about them kind of makes them give up right before the end, no matter what the project is. So my group was very insightful and had many things to say about this. They were saying that fear of failure is one reason why people drop out. But somebody else, and this was a very successful Ivy League accomplished person, said this. She said, sometimes it's fear of success. Because success is mechayev. It makes you have to, oh wow, she can do this, let's ask her to do it again. Or wow, she has much more to offer than we thought. People are afraid of their own successes because it's easier to be able to back out if you weren't successful. And some of these people who drop out, all but dissertation, are very afraid of what the new lifestyle is going to require. Somebody said very insightfully, people are afraid of boredom. So if I finish this project, what's waiting for me after this? Maybe it's better to stay in the project and not finish it and push off the finishing lines, because I'm going to be left with this hole in my life if there's no more project here. Somebody else said, which I thought was very important, that perfectionism is a very, very big thing that avoids people from actually accomplishing, because if they're going to accomplish, it's going to have to be perfect. And if it's not perfect, I'm very scared to do it. So I'll kind of sabotage on my own before I get there because I'm too afraid of it not being perfect. And that itself is a very, very important understanding of how people work. Perfectionism, this is not our topic for today, but so much depth in Jewish women and perfectionism and why we are the way we are. I'll just say one thing in parentheses. It's a little bit of a psychological observation. An idea that I learned many years ago. I never studied psychology, but I like to, go to classes and read. So this is an idea based on a system called the internal family system, which is about different mechanisms that people use to avoid unpleasant experiences. So the mechanism, and the reason why I'm saying this is because so much of zrizus has to do with this, Basically, the observation was as follows. Sometimes people have had a traumatic experience. And not all traumas are like the capital T traumas. It could be being criticized, being rejected. It could be all kinds of things that make a person feel bad. And then the person says to himself, I never want to be back in that position again, to have to experience this. And this could have been a 2-year-old who experienced it, but he's feeling, I never want to be there again. So they send that experience into what they call exile. Meaning, I'm going to make sure I'm going to keep that experience so far away that I'll never get back here again. But how do you send something into exile without it coming back? You need a manager, a jail keeper, something to lock it up and keep it locked up. And then people have mechanisms in their life that they use to keep that experience from reoccurring. And this is what they call it, the managers or the jail keepers. Perfectionism is often a manager for rejection or criticism. Meaning, I was a kid, I got criticized, or I was rejected, and I hated the way that felt. So I have a good system. I'm just going to become a people pleaser, and then nobody will reject me. Or I'll become a perfectionist, and nobody will be able to criticize me. And I think that many adult people use mechanisms to avoid experiences that may have happened many years ago. Now, the kind of a little bit, speculative, cynical side of me says, oh, come on. Because you were criticized when you were 2, that's why you're a perfectionist when you're 45. Don't we ever grow out of it? The system says that traumas that are processed heal, even quickly sometimes. But traumas that aren't processed actually sometimes get worse over time. Meaning, you can put somebody in jail for a few months and they might manage, but if somebody's been in jail for 45 years, they're dying to get out. They're banging. And therefore, the system has to be upheld even more. And the people who do the mechanism, they have to work harder. Because you know what? When you're a mother and you have a family, you can't be perfect. And if you're perfect, your kids aren't going to be perfect, your husband's not going to be perfect. So the system starts to break down after a while. Then comes the third stage, which they call the firefighters, which is what happens when that experience that I put in exile finally comes out. And here I am, criticized, when I've been avoiding that desperately. And then we have an intense emotional reaction. Like we get very angry at the person who's critical of us, or we get depressed, or something very intense, because I worked so hard to not be in this place, and here I am in this place. We are talking about fear. As the Mesillas just said, fear as the enemy of zrizus. We have to say to ourselves, what am I scared of in life? And sometimes my fear of rejection or my fear of not being perfect is stopping me from accomplishing a lot of beautiful things that I could accomplish, and maybe they won't be 100% perfect. But so chaval, because I can't, it's a system that I use to uphold a certain protective device for myself, and therefore I'm avoiding so many beautiful opportunities. And Mesillas says, the pachad is stopping you from visiting your Rebbe. Your Rebbe's in the city, he's in your house, and you're not visiting him. For us, the lion is not the issue. The issue is whatever other issues it is, the fear of not being perfect, the fear of the rejection. These are our lions. And it stops us from doing things that are so accessible to us, but we're too scared to do it. So I thought it was worth mentioning this concept because I think it really helps us understand what the Mesillas is trying to say. Often you read a medrash about a lion, and you think, oh, come on, okay, that's not my problem, But the lion is something else, and it's equally powerful, maybe even more powerful. So I just want a cute little antidote to this. A child psychologist in Yesharim once said to me that I have to tell Jewish women that they're too perfect. So I was laughing. I said, most women don't feel they're so perfect. I said, yes, but often their children do. And you know what? Young children think their parents are perfect. Teenagers think that they're totally incapable. And adults get to some kind of balance of realizing that their parents are normal, right? But for a child who is seeing a certain parental perfectionism, this professional was telling me, sometimes a mother has to bake a cake and let it over-bake for a few minutes and serve it anyway. Because it reduces anxiety for a child who feels that if it's not perfect, it can't be served. It's such an interesting piece of advice. They have to see that we also, not everything in our life is perfect, and that we're okay, even when things aren't perfect. And for them, it's a big anxiety reducer, and it will encourage zrizus for them. They'll feel more energetic and more able to produce, because sometimes if somebody doesn't get 100 on a test, they feel I might as well just not take the test. And we don't want to get that message across, because that's a big zrizus zapper. Many things can be done beautifully even if they're not perfect. And we have to realize that. Okay, how much more time do we have? Oh, we have some more time. Okay, let's go a little bit further. And here, what I'd like to say is that if a person does have these lions that the Mesillas Yesharim is talking about, but he wants to accomplish, what should he do about it? So let's work, for those of you who are following the Mesillas Yesharim, one of the, let's make another point that he's making here that's important. Not always do we have big emotional baggage about the things that we're not doing. Some things are simpler than that. And if you go back to the beginning of Perek Tes, where he says, the very first lines, Hinei mafsidei hazrizus, heim migdilei ha'atzala. This is where the laziness comes from. V'hagadol shebekulam hu bakashat hamnucha hagufanit v'sinat hatorach v'avat ha'idunim. This is a not loaded reason for why we are lazy. He says, sometimes we just love to rest, hate to work, and love pleasure. And that's the simpler reason why people sometimes don't do what they have to do, because why bother? And this is the physicality of man, which kind of makes him feel like it's just not worth the effort. It's too hard for me. The irony is that rest and physical pleasure give pleasure on a certain level. Accomplishment and growth gives pleasure on such a deeper level. So if the person, oh, thank you so much, the person in his seeking out, perfect, thank you. The person in his seeking out a pleasure, he's actually avoiding and denying himself of the ultimate pleasure of accomplishment and spiritual pursuits, which is so much more pleasurable than a good piece of cake. And this is the problem. So I'd like us to work on an antidote. How do we fight off the things that schlep us down, whether they're deeper emotional things or lighter physical things? So I'd like to share with you a beautiful idea. Again, back to Pirkei Avos. There's a Mishnah in Avos which talks about zrizus as well. Hazman katzar v'amlacha meruba, hapoalim atzelim, hasachar harbe, ubal habayit dochek. Let's translate.
Which passage is that?
This is in, I think, Perek Dalet, if I'm not mistaken. Hazman katzar v'amlacha meruba. Time is short, and there's a lot of work to be done. Hapoalim atzelim, the workers are lazy. But the pay is good. And the owner is pushing. Rabbi Yerucham Levavitz, the Mashgiach of Mir, said two beautiful ideas on this pasuk, on this Mishnah. And I'm going to share one of them with you today. If we have time, maybe we'll share the other one. He says, what's the Mishnah telling you? Mishnah obviously is talking about life. And we realize that the Balabait Dochek is Hashem. And we're the Poalim. We're lazy. But the Sachar Harbe, there's a lot of, it's good pay. So he explains the mashal, because really the Mishnah itself is a mashal, but he gives a mashal on the mashal. And he says something which I think about this all the time. I think it's a beautiful push towards zrizus. He says, the mashal is a shipping company. And in this shipping company, there are workers who are hired, and they were hired to load all the boxes. There are a lot of boxes sitting there. Get all these boxes on the ship, and I'll pay you well. They start loading, and they load and load and load and load. And then the ship is full, but they haven't managed to get all the boxes onto the ship. So they call the Balabayit, and they say to them, we're so sorry. We wanted to load everything, but we left a few behind. And the Balabayit says, what are you talking about? Every box here is important. They have to fit onto the ship. So the Balabait himself, the owner, the shipping company owner, takes the boxes off the ship, and he starts all over again. And here Rabbi Yerucham says, Balabait dochek, literally. The owner is pushing, literally, pushes this box in, takes advantage of that extra inch over there in the corner, pushes the next one in to the end, and lo and behold, he gets it all on the ship. Rabbi Yerucham says that when an important box in our life is not getting on the ship, and I'm not talking about a few dishes in the sink at the end of the day, but some child who's not getting enough attention from us, or some project that we really feel we have to do, something very important in our life, and we know it's important, but it's not getting on the ship. He says we have to ask ourselves, am I the Balabait or am I the Pol here? Am I the worker? Workers are paid per hour, so sorry, didn't get done. The owner feels, this is my ship, and I want to get it all on. And this is what zrizus is about. Zrizus is about saying, if this is an important box and this is my ship, I'm going to find some way to get it on. Because I'm not just a hired help, it's my ship. And I think it's a very beautiful idea to think about. And I'd like to say that in busy women's lives, it's hard to get everything on the ship. Very difficult. In the mashal, the owner pushes everything onto the ship. In our lives, maybe something else has to go off the ship to put on something else. Maybe there's something that I do that keeps me busy and it's important, but it's not urgent. Anybody who ever read Stephen Covey's books on the 7 habits of highly effective people, he makes a distinction between urgent and important. Many, many things we have to do in life are urgent. We have to get the laundry done, we have to get the kids picked up, we have to get the food, Shabbos is coming, we have to cook. All those things are very, very important, and that's what fills up our time. Important is that there's some child sitting on the couch while I'm making a third kugel, and this child is not getting attention from me, and I have to think, is there some way to make sure that the urgent things get on the ship also, not just the important ones? I'm sorry, that the important things get on the ship and not just the urgent ones. And sometimes there's a little bit of an exchange that has to take place. Maybe, temporarily, one less kugel, in exchange for attention for a child who really needs it from me right now. But since I'm the owner, I can decide what to reorganize, and that's really what zrizus is about. It's about saying, I own the ship, and I'm taking responsibility for it, not as a paid help, but as the owner. And that's the Balabait Dochek. The next idea that I wanted to share with you on the same Mishnah is actually based in the Maharal. And I love this idea as well. I couldn't figure out which one I want to share with you more, because I love them both, and I said I'll share them both. I hope it's okay. What? It's okay? What's that? I'm sorry? Okay. So, the Maharal says that the Mishnah is actually telling you that you have 4 voices in your life that are always calling you to accomplish. And what are those voices? Hazman katzar, time. Time is calling you and saying to you, please use me well. There's a medrash that says that there's 365 days in the world, in the year, keneged 365 averos in the Torah. Because every day is telling you, don't sin on my day. Do it tomorrow, Wednesday, his day, not mine. My day should not have any averos. Time is a voice in my life. Time is its own entity saying, please use me well. And if this is not the voice of zrizus, I don't know what is. But it's more than that. Ha-po'alim atzelim. The po'alim are you and your kochos. And your kochos are calling you. And they're saying, please use me. You're so good at this. Or you're so smart. You have such a good heart. Use it to do something for the community. Use it to do something for your family. Use it to do something. Please use me. I'm going to get back to that in a second. Well, maybe I'll say what I want to say right now on that. Please use me. There's a beautiful, beautiful sefer called Adam Ba'olamo by a very sad story. Somebody called Rav Shlomo Karlinsky, alav shalom, a very, very special young boy who was nifter at the age of 21 in a car accident. And after he was nifter, they found his writings. And he was an incredibly poetic soul who wrote beautiful, beautiful ideas. The idea I'm about to tell you right now, he wrote when he was 16. He said, people are called chai. They're called alive. Inanimate objects are called domem, meaning an inanimate object. He says, why? He says, because an inanimate object does better when it's not used. Meaning, if you take a certain electrical appliance, when is it most likely to have a long life? If you don't use it that much. If you use it a lot, then you need to replace it sometimes. He says, Chai, man, is the opposite. He needs to be used in order to do well. Meaning, a man who is just not using his kochos is a man who's not energized, is a man who's not really living. And that's why we're called Chai, because the instruction book for man is use me, please. It's not like the more chesed I do, I'm going to get, if I use too much chesed, I'm going to have to replace the heart because the heart's going to get broken. It's that we build up our muscles in different areas. You're going to daven, and it's going to be too much, and then you're not going to daven anymore, it's going to break. I mean, everything, we have to know how much in proportion of everything, but the basic idea is that people grow from use. The instruction book for an inanimate object is please don't use me for a long life. The instruction book for a human being is please use me for a long life. The more I invest, the more I do, the more energetic I am. That's what a chai is. So back to the Mishnah. When the Mishnah says that your kochos are calling you, your kochos are saying, we don't want to be like that muscle that gets neglected, that gets flabby. Please use your kochos, please, whatever you're good at, use it for good. And that's the second voice that's calling you. Time is calling you, and your kochos are calling you. What else is calling you? Hashem himself is calling you. Balabait tochek. Hashem is saying, I want to be close to you. Please, come, use your time to get close to me. Mahu rachum, afatarachum. I do chesed, you do chesed. I fight against time, you fight against time. Be like me, get close to me. And these are 3 out of the 4. And then hasachar halbeh. Hashem wants to pay. He wants to reward you. He's waiting with the prize for you to accomplish it. And he's saying, Chaval, I have an olam haba waiting for you. That's beautiful. Please work towards it. And these are the things that are calling man. There's actually another voice that's calling man here, which is the mission itself. The mission, which is the avodah, hazman katzal v'avodah merubah. And here, I would like to give us something to think about as we kind of wind down. And we'll go back to Mesillas Yesharim a little bit. The mission is calling me and asking to please be done. For every one of us, we have to figure out what that mission is. And the mission doesn't always have to be this capital M, one lifetime goal. Everybody, my students in Mechala always say to me, what's my tafkid? I want to know what my tafkid is. What am I supposed to be doing? And I say, it's really chaval that Hashem doesn't send down a little note from Shemayim and say, do this. Volba says, what's our mission? Volba says, if you know your strengths and you know your weaknesses, your mission in life is to use your strengths to overcome your weaknesses. And that's the mission, at a bigger level, on a daily level. Meaning, I have a very good heart, but I'm also a little bit lazy. So what's going to win over what here? Am I going to get out of bed in order to do chesed? Or am I going to stay in bed and not do the chesed? And everybody has some, what Rav Oba calls a nekuda of shefa, a midah that is natural for me, that flows, that is the key to my success. It's what I have to give to the world. But everybody also has a dramatic flaw, something that gets in my way and stops me. Rav Oba says, you want to know what your mission is in life? It's to use, whenever these two are playing off of each other, make sure that your strengths are overcoming your weaknesses. Now, in the mitzvahs that I just mentioned, chesed versus atzla, for example, it's obvious. Either I'm going to get it out of bed or I'm not going to get out of bed to do that chesed. But what about when it's not so obvious? I have certain strengths and weaknesses. They don't seem to correlate. Every time I use my strength, I'm creating zrizus in my personality. I'm creating more positive energy. And that's what gives me the strength to fight off the difficult parts of me. So the correlation between my weak points and my strong points are not only direct, use chesed to overcome atzla, but rather use positive energy to be able to fight the harder parts of your personality. And Rav was saying this is our mission in life. This is what we're supposed to be doing, making sure that my strengths are helping me overcome my weaknesses. And this is zrizus in the macro of my life. And my azaris in general are my stronger points, energizing me to overcome my weak points. But when the Maharal says that the mission is calling us, he also means the little mission. The child sitting on the couch who's not getting attention is the little mission. It's calling you, saying, please spend time with me. The sitter, to pick it up and daven, is the mission that's saying, please use me. The chesed opportunity, the thing to be done for the community, is the mission that's saying, please, I need to be done. Nobody's doing it. Please do it. Maharal is saying, if you listen to these voices that call you in life, this is what energizes you to overcome what we just said in the Mesillas Yesharim, the physical desire to not get out of bed, to eat, to sleep, to enjoy pleasure. This is the heavier part of man. But the man uses his voices that call him to rise above those limitations and to take himself seriously and to get past it. So let's end off with the Mesillas Yesharim. I hope the Ramchal forgives me that I had so many ideas I wanted to share with you today that I didn't give justice as much to the text as I could have. But I'm only here one time, and I figured I'd like to share with you the ideas that excite me about zrizus, so I hope it was okay. Okay, let's see what I wanted to mention. Okay, for those people who are following, if you look in the third paragraph of Perek Tes, Klalo shel davar. Klalo shel davar tzarich sheyasim adam et atzmo arai ba'olam v'kavua ba'avodah. The big principle here is that a person should make himself temporary in the world, but set in his goal. Meaning, when it comes to the world of physical pleasures, I'm just a tourist. When it comes to the mission that I want to do, that's my permanent address. And that's really what's supposed to inspire me. Things in the physical world, you'll just take whatever it is. When tourists backpack across Europe with one little backpack, they kind of live on whatever comes their way. They're fine because they're a tourist. He says, when it comes to physical things, just be like a tourist. Live with whatever you need, but you don't not all the excesses. I have two boys who are very close in age. When I take them on a trip, one of them would come down with a tiny little pouch, like those money pouches for a whole day in the Golan. The other one would come down with 5 knapsacks. Maybe I'll need this, and maybe I'll need that, and I brought some towels, and I brought some this, and I brought the kitchen sink, and I brought... So what we're saying is that the Ramchal is telling you, see this world as a tourist. Minimal. Whatever you need, and you take care of yourself. But you're kind of backpacking. Yikach min haba biyado, just take whatever comes. V'yeh rachok min hamenucha, v'karov lemelacha la'amal. You should be far from menucha. In terms of sleep, take what you need. But in terms of the mission that we want to do, that's where you want to put your efforts. V'yeh nachon libo batuach b'Hashem, v'lo yireh mitodot hazman u'pig'av. And you should have bitachon. And he shouldn't be scared of life and its difficulties. And it's an interesting correlation that the Ramchal makes. He says that zrizus and bitachon go together. Because for the person who's scared, it's paralyzing. It's literally immobilizing when you're scared of things. And an immobilized person can't accomplish too much. We need bitachon to know that whatever happens to us in life is mechuvan from Hashem who loves us. And therefore, I'm not scared to do what I have to do. And I'm not immobilized. So the Ramchal is giving you another partner to zrizus. I said before, simcha is the partner. And he says bitachon is also the partner. Because if I know that Hashem is with me, then I'll do what I have to do. And I'm not so scared of everything. Because if something was going to happen, it was going to happen anyway, even if I was sitting in my bed. So why sit in your bed and be scared? At least accomplish and do what you have to do. Okay. I'd like to leave room for questions, because really we are kind of winding down. So if anybody would like to ask anything, I'm happy to take any questions. Anybody? No? Okay. I just wanted to explain to you a little bit about my musarvad. It's something that I do live in Yerushalayim, in Beit Shemesh in Yerushalayim. But I've been asked to also open it up for people overseas. So I started a teleconferencing VAD. I pick a topic, and I usually deal with it for 8 weeks. We're in the middle of zrizus right now. If anybody wants to sign up, but you've missed a few, it's worked out perfectly that Rebbe Fuchs asked me to do these prakim. And we work on a midah together as a group. I give a shir over the phone. I take questions and answers over the phone for people who don't mind asking their question over the phone, so then I can respond to it. Many shy people send in an email with a question anonymously, and then I respond to it in the next class. And for 8 weeks, we work together on building up a midah with a little homework, something to internalize into our lives for the week, and then we come back to work on the next thing. My next upcoming topic on December 5th is anger and patience. We'll be dealing with that for 8 weeks. And there's some information here. I have a former student from Mesillas who handles everything. I technologically don't even know how to open up my computer. So she has set up a website for me with all she did a beautiful job. So anybody who's interested in joining, I would love to have you. And my bracha to all of us is that we should become more energized. We should overcome our fears. And should be able to devote ourselves to zrizus the way the Mesillas Yesharim wants us to. And to therefore get the simcha that comes along with zrizus. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.